The year is 476 AD. The sun sets over Ravenna, casting long shadows across the marble columns of what was once the mightiest empire the world had ever known. Inside the imperial palace, the air is thick with incense and fear. Flavius Romulus Augustulus, barely 16 years old, sits on a throne that feels too large for his small frame. His hands tremble as he grips the golden armrests, knowing that outside these walls, barbarian armies gather like storm clouds on the horizon. What do you think it felt like to be the last emperor of Rome, watching an empire that had lasted over 1,000 years crumble in your teenage hands? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The marble floors echo with hurried footsteps as General Orestes, the boy emperor's father, bursts through the ornate doors. His weathered face bears the weight of impossible decisions. "My son, we must discuss the terms," he says, his voice barely above a whisper. The scent of burning oil from the lamps mingles with the cold autumn air seeping through the windows. Romulus looks up, his dark eyes reflecting the flickering flames. "What terms, father? What is there left to negotiate?" The question hangs in the air like the smoke from distant fires, where Roman settlements burn under barbarian torches. Beyond the palace walls, the Germanic chieftain Odoacer sits atop his warhorse, surveying the city that once commanded the world. His breath forms clouds in the crisp morning air as he addresses his assembled warriors. "Today we do not conquer Rome," he declares, his voice cutting through the wind. "Today Rome surrenders itself to us." His men, a mix of Heruli, Rugi, and Shiri tribes, nod in approval. Their armor clanks softly as they shift in their saddles, hands resting on sword hilts that have tasted Roman blood across countless battlefields. The smell of leather, horse sweat, and steel fills the air around them. Inside the palace, servants move like ghosts through corridors that once bustled with senators, diplomats, and courtiers from across the known world. Now only shadows remain, dancing on walls adorned with frescoes depicting Rome's glorious past. Caesar's triumph in Gaul, Augustus receiving tribute from distant lands, Trajan's conquests in Dacia. The irony is palpable. Surrounded by images of conquest, the last emperor prepares for surrender. A messenger arrives, his sandals slapping against the stone floor. "Your Majesty," he pants, "Odoacer requests your presence in the throne room." He comes not as a conqueror, but as a negotiator. The great doors of the throne room swing open with a groan that seems to echo through centuries of history. Odoacer enters, his fur-lined cloak trailing behind him, accompanied by only 2 guards. He is tall, his blonde hair streaked with early gray, his blue eyes sharp as winter ice. The barbarian king stops before the throne, neither kneeling nor bowing. For a moment, the two figures stare at each other across an impossible divide. Civilization and barbarism, east and west, the old world and the new. "Emperor," Odoacer begins, his Latin heavily accented but clear, "I come to offer you a choice that no Roman ruler has ever faced." Young Romulus straightens in his throne, trying to summon the dignity of his predecessors. "Speak your terms, Germanic king." His voice wavers slightly, betraying his youth and fear. Odoacer's expression softens almost imperceptibly. "I do not seek your death, boy, nor do I wish to destroy what Rome has built. But the West can no longer be ruled from this throne. Your soldiers will not fight for you. Your senators have already begun negotiating with my representatives. Your people look to barbarian leaders for protection because Rome has failed them." Each word falls like a hammer blow, shattering the last illusions of imperial power. The sound of marching feet echoes from the courtyard below. Through the tall windows, columns of Germanic warriors can be seen filing through the streets of Ravenna, not as raiders or destroyers, but as an occupying force taking control with surprising order. Roman citizens peer from doorways and windows, some with fear, others with curious resignation. The world is changing before their eyes, and they sense it. What are your thoughts on this moment? Do you think the Romans saw this as liberation or catastrophe? Let me know in the comments. General Orestes steps forward, his hand instinctively moving to his sword hilt before stopping. Old habits die hard even in surrender. What becomes of my son? What becomes of Rome? Odoacer turns his attention to the graying general. Your son will live. He will be given lands in Campania, a pension worthy of his birth, and the respect due to his lineage. As for Rome, the barbarian king pauses, looking around at the opulent chamber. Rome will endure, but not as it was. The Eastern Empire remains strong in Constantinople. But here, In the West, a new age begins. The negotiation continues through the afternoon, the details of transition discussed with surprising civility. Treaties are drafted, terms negotiated, futures decided. As the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, casting golden light through the windows, the reality becomes undeniable. The Western Roman Empire, which had survived civil wars, plagues, invasions, and the madness of emperors, would not survive this teenage boy's reign. The irony cuts deep, not destroyed by a great conqueror like Hannibal or a massive invasion, but ended through careful negotiation and political necessity. As evening approaches, the final ceremony begins. In the same throne room where countless emperors had received tribute from conquered peoples, Romulus Augustulus performs an act unprecedented in Roman history. With trembling hands, he removes the purple diadem from his brow. The golden circlet catches the torchlight one last time before he places it on the marble steps before his throne. I, Flavius Romulus Augustulus, last emperor of the Western Roman Empire, do hereby abdicate my throne and relinquish all claim to imperial authority. His young voice echoes in the vast chamber, carrying the weight of over a millennium of Roman rule to its quiet end. Odoacer steps forward and, in a gesture that surprises everyone present, does not claim the diadem for himself. Instead, he addresses the assembled witnesses, Roman senators, Germanic chieftains, palace officials, and guards from both armies. Let this crown be sent to Emperor Zeno in Constantinople, where Roman authority in the East continues unbroken. Here in the West, we shall rule not as emperors, but as kings serving under Eastern authority. The unity of Rome in name shall be preserved, even as its reality transforms. The ceremony concludes not with fanfare, but with an almost eerie silence. The last Western Roman emperor walks from his throne room as a private citizen, his footsteps echoing hollowly in the vast space. Outside, Germanic soldiers maintain order in the streets, while Roman citizens adapt to their new reality. Some weep for the old ways, others welcome the promise of stability under new leadership. The transition is remarkably peaceful, a testament to how thoroughly the old system had already collapsed before this final act. In the days that follow, life in Ravenna continues with surprising normalcy. Markets reopen, courts convene under new authority, and the machinery of government adapts to barbarian rule. Odoacer proves an effective administrator, maintaining Roman law and customs while introducing Germanic military organization. The boy who was emperor adjusts to his new life with the resilience of youth, eventually finding contentment in his Campanian retirement. But the implications of this moment extend far beyond one city or one ceremony. Across Europe, the news spreads like wildfire. The Western Roman Empire has ended. In Britain, Saxon kingdoms solidify their hold on former Roman territories. In Gaul, Frankish power grows unchallenged. In Spain, Visigothic rule strengthens. The political map of Europe begins its transformation into the medieval world that will define the next 1,000 years. The fall of the Western Roman Empire marks more than just a political transition. It represents the end of the ancient world and the beginning of the medieval period. The classical learning, urban culture, and administrative sophistication that Rome had spread across Western Europe begins its long retreat. Trade networks that had connected Britain to Egypt and Spain to Syria start to fragment. The Latin language begins its evolution into the Romance languages we know today. Christianity, already dominant, fills the vacuum left by imperial authority, with the Pope in Rome beginning to exercise temporal as well as spiritual power. Yet Rome's legacy endures in unexpected ways. Germanic kingdoms adopt Roman titles and customs. Barbarian kings style themselves as successors to Caesar. The Holy Roman Empire, founded 3 centuries later, explicitly claims Roman heritage. The legal codes, architectural principles, and governmental structures that Rome developed continue to influence European civilization for centuries to come. Even the word civilization itself derives from the Latin civitas, reflecting Rome's enduring impact on human thought. Standing in that throne room in Ravenna, neither Romulus nor Odoacer could have imagined the full scope of what they were witnessing. They saw the end of an empire, but they were actually present at one of history's great turning points. The moment when the ancient world gave way to the medieval, when classical civilization transformed into something entirely new. The boy emperor's abdication was not just the end of Rome's Western Empire, but the beginning of the Europe we know today. As we look back across 15 centuries, we can see patterns that were invisible to those living through them. The collapse of the Western Roman Empire was not a sudden catastrophe, but a gradual transformation. Economic, military, political, and cultural changes that had been building for generations finally reached their conclusion in that Ravenna throne room. The barbarians were not destroyers, but inheritors, taking up the mantle of governance when Rome could no longer bear its weight. What do you think about this pivotal moment in world history? Could the Western Roman Empire have been saved, or was its transformation into medieval Europe inevitable? How do you think the people of the time understood what they were experiencing? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective on this fascinating period when the ancient world became the medieval world. This is the power of historical moments. They seem inevitable in retrospect, but for those living through them, the future remains uncertain and frightening. The teenage emperor who walked away from absolute power, the barbarian king who chose negotiation over conquest, and the Roman citizens who adapted to foreign rule were all navigating uncharted territory, making decisions that would echo through the ages. If you enjoyed this journey back to one of history's most significant turning points, please give this video a like and subscribe to Endless Ages for more incredible stories from humanity's past. From the rise and fall of empires to the personal dramas that changed the world, we're here to bring ancient history to life. More epic tales from the distant past are coming soon.